The Loki series is almost towards the end of the season. We're getting ready to talk about episode 5, and it was pretty interesting. I liked the episode, but we're going to get right in, not waste any time, and talk about what happened in this episode. Okay, so just like all the other episodes, Loki, this episode, episode 5 of the Marvel Disney Plus series, Loki series, starts off just like the other ones. It kind of starts off picking up exactly where it left off in the last episode. If you remember it, the last episode, you find out Loki, we all thought Loki was gone since he was purged. But, at the end credit scene, you find out that he wakes up and he's actually in a location. He doesn't know where he is, but he is surrounded by several other Loki variants. There's a little kid Loki, there's a Loki holding a hammer, and then there's a Loki, I think they call him the classic Loki, that has on like the old school Loki outfit. And the little kid Loki is actually carrying what looks like a alligator or a crocodile or something with a Loki helmet on. So there is a crocodile animal variant of Loki. They quickly find out that he can't stay where he is. They look like they're in some kind of wasteland, but he can get up and he tries to ask the other Loki variants some questions. Quickly find out they can't stay where he is because there is this giant smoke-looking being, monster or whatever, that what he finds out is that monster will attack everything and kill everything that gets transported to that wherever they are, wherever the land is that they are. So that monster kind of shows himself, and then they run away to try to get away from the monster, and they end up at this little hatch that takes them down to the hideout, to the place where the Loki variants that the Loki that we know have ran into have been hiding out at. Back with Lady Loki, with Sylvia, you find out she's having a conversation with Ravonna Renslayer. This takes place exactly, right after the events of the last episode. She, has the blade, the little stick or weapon that she's carrying to, holding it up to Ravonna Renslayer. And then they talk for a while. Ravonna tries to deceive her a little bit, trying to make her think that she's on her side and that they both need to find out who's in charge of the TVA, since, in the last episode, they found out that the timekeepers that they were talking to were fake, so she tries to do that, but it was all a trick. And what she ended up doing is stalling her long enough so that the rest of the timekeeper agents can come in and they have Sylvie surrounded. But Sylvie, after she talks for a while, she realizes that what she needs to do is she needs to go to where Loki was sent to, which they find out that where they were sent to, everybody that gets purged gets sent to this place, and it's sort of at the end of time, and it's beyond the timeline that they can view. So Sylvie realized that that's where she needs to go, because she needs to go beyond that to find out what's going on. So once she found that out, right when Ravonna Renslayer thinks that she got Sylvie cornered, Sylvie just takes the little stick and purges herself, and she disappears. Okay, so back with Loki, he have conversations with them. They all go about how they broke how they got caught by the TVA. Everybody had their own story, but it's kind of similar. But during the talking, Loki decides that what he needs to do is he needs to go back and kill the monster, smoke monster, which of course the rest of the Lokis, they laughed, they was like, you can't kill that thing, which it kind of seemed like it's pretty invincible, but Loki decides that's what he needs to do. So he, right before he decides to go on his trek to go do that, then they find another Loki variant that kind of looks similar to the Loki that we know, but he's completely different. And this Loki shows up and he has like an army with him. They're not other Lokis, but just probably other people that he's collected. This starts off a big fight with all of the different Lokis, because it seemed like they were kind of all in competition with each other to find out who was going to be the king of that land, But it's a big fight, and during the fight, Loki, the Loki that we know, he eventually just leaves them alone and leaves. While they're all fighting and stuff, he doesn't get involved and he leaves because his goal is he's going to go and try to kill that smoke monster that's keeping him, in that land. He figures that he needs to kill that smoke monster to move forward, to go to his next step on whatever he's going to do next. All right, so then we go down and he's, while he's going to try to find out how to get to the smoke monster, the other Lokis that kind of found that he ran into when he first appeared on that land, they, end up deciding they're going to go with him. They said they're going to show him how to get there, but that's as far as they're going. You know, it's up to him on what he's going to do since then. So the kid Loki, the classic Loki, and the alligator Loki, you know, those three, they go and they, you know, walk along with the Loki that we know to get to the point where you know, he wants to get to the smoke monster so he can try to kill the smoke monster. So then it goes back to Sylvie, Lady Loki. You know, she wakes up. She's now in the same land as Loki, which she doesn't know where she is at this point. So she gets up, and the first thing that happens is the smoke monster attacks her. Now, while she's trying to get away from the smoke monster, she does touch him for a little bit. And while she does that, she gets like a little vision. She don't know what it is, but she all of a sudden hears a car, you know, and she turns around and look, and she sees this little car, look like a pizza delivery car driving towards her. So she runs towards the car, and when she gets there, the car door opens and she hops in the car, and the car drives off. And what do you know? It's Mobius. You know, of course, you know, he was purged in the last episode, and of course he's in this same place, you know, because you find out that everybody that gets purged goes to this place, you know. So he's there. He picks her up in the car, and then they drive along, and she decides she needs to get to where the smoke monster is too. So they start driving in the direction of the smoke monster. So once Sylvie gets to a certain point, you know, her and the Loki that we know meet up. You know, they both are heading in the same direction, so they both meet up. But the only difference is Loki's plan was to try to kill the smoke monster. When he meets up with Sylvie, you know, he have like a moment with her. He was glad to see her. And then when she finds out what his plan was, she kind of laughed, and she says her plan was to try to enchant the smoke monster. She figured that, you know, she wouldn't be able to kill him, but she thinks she can enchant him, because when the smoke monster was chasing her when she first arrived there, she kind of touched him and got that vision, and that led her to believe that she can enchant him, you know. So she figured if she can enchant him, she will be able to get past him. You know, she says she don't think that the goal should be to kill the smoke monster, but to get past the smoke monster. The smoke monster is guarding something, and what he is guarding is where she needs to go. So they get to where the smoke monster is. They call the smoke monster down, and after a brief little action sequence where Loki is trying to, you know, trying to cause like a diversion, you know, so that Sylvie can enchant the smoke monster. They get a little help from the classic Loki. He helps with a little distraction, and then it comes to find out that both Sylvie and the Loki we know have to combine their powers, and then they do so, and they are able to enchant the smoke monster. And when they do so, the smoke monster turn green because they have the smoke monster under their control, and a door open or a portal open, and they can see like a castle or something behind it, and that's where the episode ends. So what did I think of the episode? I thought it was entertaining. I kind of still have the same kind of feeling as I briefly talked about in my last video on this, is that it seemed like these Marvel Disney Plus shows, they start out with a bang and they kind of slowly decline just a little bit as the season go on, and I still feel like it's doing that way. I was wondering, why is it like that? Is that a lot of these shows is basically like if you have a 2.5 hour movie and stretched it out over the course of a whole season. And that's why I feel like these shows kind of lose me a little bit as time goes on, because every episode seems to be one set piece dragged out along the whole episode. Like if you look at this episode, it's basically one thing that happens. You know, Loki, you know, he wakes up in this place, and his whole thing was to try to get to the smoke monster, you know, because he feel like that he has to get past the smoke monster. So it was just basically one task that happened, you know, Loki getting to the smoke monster, and they stretched it out over a whole episode, which it could have been just one set piece, one part of a overall thing, instead of being a whole episode of an overall thing. And I think that every episode is like that. Every episode is like one set piece, one action set piece stretched along a full episode. And I think that that's why I'm getting this feeling about how these shows feel to me as the seasons go on. But other than that, I'm still enjoying the season. I'm curious to see where they're going to go. You know, the next week is the last episode. I'm curious to see where they're going to go. But, you know, before we go, I want to show you something. There's a scene in this movie, in this episode, where when Loki, you know, he meets up with the other Lokis and they take him to this hideout. They open up a hatch and they show him climbing down a hatch. And when they show him climbing down the hatch, this is what you see. You see it? You got to look real close. I watched it a couple of times till I noticed it, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. Check this out right here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I know it's got to be something to that. I'm pretty sure everybody's going to know. Everybody that's doing videos on this episode probably noticed that, and we'll be talking about it, be giving their theories. I don't know what in the world it is, but it looks like it's a miniature Thor trying to get to a normal size hammer. It's crazy. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, that's my episode for this week. That was episode 5 of Loki. I'm still enjoying the show. My interest in the show is slowly going down, but yeah, I'm still here to the end. Next week is the last episode. I'm curious to see how they're going to end this. But yeah, here we go. That was episode 5 of Loki. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.